So believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we've actually reached the season finale of FX's American Horror Story Apocalypse, and I am proud to say Ryan Murphy, Brad Falchuk, but though mostly I lay this at the feet of Ryan Murphy, great job. You did a really, really excellent job landing this plane. I'm not gonna deny I was a little hesitant, a little worried the last two episodes because it just seemed like we had a lot of fluff and a lot of filler, and it just felt like, do we really have that much time to fill before we get to the ending? We do. And let me jump in because there are going to be a couple things I want to talk about, some major highlights, a couple things, about the series that weren't great. But overall, I just thought this was a fantastic episode. I thought it set things up really, really interestingly going into season 9 and just fun. I mean, I think going into the season, most fans of American Horror Story were expecting a lot of layers of fun, and I think we got them and some quality thrown into the mix. You can't beat that combination. First, I love the fact that in this last episode, they just decided to embrace their cheese. We have robots, we have the Cooperative, we have Satanists, everything like that. Instead of trying to make everything from the beginning of the season shoehorn into something realistic and logical like they did the last two episodes, they pretty much just asked us to, okay, embrace it, accept it, move on, because we're going to give you some really cool confrontations and we're going to give you some really cool setups. And I think they did that just from an amazing standpoint. Myrtle, I love the beginning, that whole ocean, I guess you could call her Ocean's 1, where she was dealing with Mutt and Jeff and Miss Venable, and just the way we see how everything was stocked going into it. We knew a plan was in place, but to really see Myrtle going around and making Cordelia's plan come to life, I just thought was a really nice touch. The Coco Mallory dynamic, as much as I laughed about their dynamic in the beginning, I give Leslie Grossman and Billie Lourd a lot of credit because it totally changed the way I look at them now. Their beginning scenes are more heartbreaking now when you see everything they've gone through and what they went through to be put under that spell to forget everything and to essentially save Mallory so that Mallory can save the entire world. Angela Bassett back as Maria Laveau, you can't go wrong. And that speech she gives to Dinah and the hacking of the head and everything like that, that was just a really great, solid pimp move. Let's get as many guest stars back as possible. And I gotta say, I loved it. The sacrifice by Cordelia, again, just, I think, some amazing lines. This idea of you may be the son of Satan, well, sons of Satan, get to that in a second, but this idea of essentially that her legion, her coven of witches is just legion and strong. Again, I just love it. And the fact that she took ownership of her body, and let's not get past that. It is a woman taking ownership of her body and control of it, and it was going to be Cordelia who was going to set the tone of how she goes out, not Michael. Again, I thought that was really, really nicely played. The killing of Langdon, some people had issue with this. I don't. I didn't want some big time traveling thing or something like that. Mallory went the horror heroine route. When in doubt, run them over with your car. And if you have a car and it's still running, run them over 2 or 3 times. Now, my only concern is, now granted we know how it ends, I always need to see a body. That is always going to be my case. That is my case with Fear the Walking Dead and other shows too. If you don't show me a body, then I'm always going to afraid that someone or something's going to come back. I'm just saying. Constance, Jessica Lange, again, in case we needed one more reminder how much she just tears up the screen. But I think we also need to, look, it doesn't help when Satan's your dad, but Constance, wow, we saw in this episode, talk about an understatement with regards to being a bad mom. I mean, she was kind of owning up to it earlier in the season when we returned to Murder House, but I'm not sure she owned up to enough because, wow, the way she kind of laid it into Michael. And I don't get the impression she did a lot of things to help him, that she was more concerned about keeping it hidden and keeping it, controlled and to her. So, Satan and Constance, that's a rough 1-2 combination. All of this segues nicely into the questions that I really appreciate that this finale has given us. 1, we have technically 2 Supremes in this new timeline because Mallory's remembering everything. Now, I'm sure she doesn't obviously have supreme power, but I think it makes her an interesting proposition that we've never had to deal with before. So I'm not sure what her role is going to be necessarily in the coven moving forward. She remembers everything. She can be a great source of information with all of that alternate timeline backstory. Murder House fates. I'm not buying into the cynical Murder House fates like a lot of other people are. I think there are some potential, I guess, optimism, if not happy ending, for the Harmons, for Tate, and for everybody. So, because again, the evil isn't in that house. The fact that Michael was even allowed to die outside, I think it's not going to necessarily give them, like, peace, kumbaya, namaste, and move on. But I'm not buying into this whole idea that suddenly Murder House is back to the hellish place it was. Side note, by the way, I love the fact that Mallory saved Queenie from Hotel Cortez. That was particularly nice. And last, but certainly not least, we finally see what the point of Tim and Emily were. Our Adam and Eve that we thought from the very beginning of the season turn out to be this timeline's Adam and Eve. And we see Miriam and her Satanist friends looking to get involved in this process a little earlier than they did last time. But remember also, we have a situation where we have Tim and Emily. We have two what seem to be decent parents. Very curious to see where this goes, but it's interesting to know that no matter where these seasons go, this is going to be going on in the background, and we know eventually it's going to have to be dealt with. But all in all, American Horror Story Apocalypse, 10 episodes I thought was the perfect amount. Could have maybe spread certain things out over certain episodes, so maybe episodes 8 and 9 weren't so... But all in all, I'd have to say, just from a pure fun standpoint, from a fanboy standpoint, from the standpoint of somebody who just really saw some quality acting, some quality directing from Sarah Paulson especially, and some quality work overall, I just got to say, I thought this season of American Horror Story Apocalypse was a huge, huge success. Cannot wait to see what they're going to be doing for season 9.